problems with Discord lately if I sit on Central European servers. So I just hop to Western European.
Yeah, we have that sometimes as well.
Yeah, it's just irritating. Okay,
No.
so yeah, let's really just begin. You haven't been coached by me before, so what I like to do is I like to do overalls, which mean I just like read up all your overall mistakes, and then we use your VOD kind of as like an example piece, kind of to show the mistakes that you're doing, and then we try to set up how we can fix those mistakes.
All right. Do I need to be taking any notes or just watch
Well,
and listen?
that's completely up to you. If you want to take notes, take notes. If you don't want to take notes, if you want to record this, record it. It's up to you. How you wanna remember it.
Okay, cool.
My notes are not something I can send you because you wouldn't understand them because it's just like pointers that I remember. It's like when I see one of my pointers, it wouldn't make sense anyway. Let me see. Okay, so this is the VOD. I'm just gonna turn off the thing here. Okay, so you play Reaper, Ash, and Sombra on this one. And
just a note, I was tilted already on in most of these games, so
yeah, but like, so the problem that you have, it's like very common for low rank people to have. It's how can I say it? So your overall stuff, not just on like heroes, but like your overall stuff is you lack mechanics. Like you run in straight lines, you stop, sometimes just standing still completely. You don't strafe. Your mouse movement is very like you will just let me just open Overwatch here as well. You just kind of put your mouse somewhere and then just keep it there, and then you like move it around in like a very stiff fashion. It's not very fluent. If you let me see, I'll just find some footage. I do have some tracer footage.
Yeah, I can understand what you mean.
Yeah. Right here, I'm just clearing corners up top. Right, it's constantly moving. I'm constantly moving my mouse, constantly checking my corners. Right, constantly checking my corners, constantly checking where the enemy should be appearing. Right, to stay prepared at all times. Right, and constantly trying to move in a fashion that makes it me difficult to hit. Right.
Is that also about sensitivity? Because I've lowered it in recent times.
Well, that's up to you. Like I don't like to tell people what sensitivity there is. Logically, the higher sense you have, the more relaxed you are, kinda to a certain extent, of course, because you don't have to move your mouse that much. I have personally increased my sensitivity. I used to play on very very low sensitivity. Now I play on still what's considered low sense, but it's at least higher than what it used to be.
Yep.
And it does kind of help. But it depends. Do you have a lot of mouse space? Do you want to use your arm a lot? There's some people that play on super, super low sense and just move their hand a lot. And then there's people that play on very high sense and they don't need to move their hand a lot. But in the end, it's still just the same. You just need to actually move, like use your arm. If that's a lot of movement or very little movement, right? It's just that you need to actually move your hand, right?
Yeah, I play mostly with the wrist. I'm not very comfortable when I have to lift the arm. I do it sometimes, but mostly the wrist. So I have a lot of mouse space there.
Well, if it's only with the wrist, then and you play on low sense, then I can kind of understand that that's a problem.
Yep.
Because when I play on low sense, and also when I played on lower sense, like I use my entire arm on a very large mouse pad to do this. Like this rotation right here is like my entire mouse pad.
Yeah, no,
and that's like
I can't do that. I can't do that because high sensitivity, I lose accuracy. So I sacrifice, if you will, movement to have a little bit better accuracy.
Yeah, I don't think that has anything really to do with your sensitivity. I think that has something to do with your mechanics.
Okay.
Like a high tier, like for example, you can give a professional player a different mouse and you can give him a different sensitivity and he will still perform really fucking good. Because it's not just about the sensitivity of the player. It has something to do with the style and comfort and so on. And like changing it too much, like going from super low to incredibly high, is of course going to mess you up, and vice versa. But I think it has more to do with your accuracy. I don't think it's something to blame the sensitivity or anything. It's your accuracy. You don't have mouse control, and you don't look comfortable playing.
Okay, fair enough.
And this is that in general you're not active. Your positioning is also really off. You position yourself weirdly on the map. You're not active in your fights, which I think is like one of your biggest things, because like your accuracy is better than goal players. Like the average goal player has worse accuracy than you.
Mm-hmm.
So you aim better than most of them. You have very, very, very little, like very few amount of headshots, which has something to do with, again, the kind of the lazy way of aiming, where you keep your crosser somewhere and then you kind of aim with it, but
Yep.
like you don't adjust it for heights, for example. So when you see a tank, you don't instantly move your crosshair up to the head. You keep it at bottom and then you just keep tracking it. Which is again something to do with being active with your mouse. But you're not active during team fights. You on purposely take yourself out of team fights. Like you'll be playing as Reaper here, and then the enemy team will push, and you'll like walk here, walk back, walk here, walk back, walk here, go up here, attack the Widow, run after the Widow, and now you're going to point, and now the fight is over. Instead of actually fighting them in the beginning of team fights.
Just to note, that one, the last one you mentioned is the general point. You are correct, but in that specific map that you're referring to, the Widow was relatively good, so I was trying to take her out. I felt like if I was on the point, she would take me out.
But that's not your job.
True, true.
Like you 1v1ing a Widowmaker and spending all your time. Okay, imagine like this. You are a Reaper. Your job, you are really good at close quarters and to burst tanks. That's your job. Your job is to burst the tanks, burst people in close quarters, running after the Widow while she can just kite away from you. One, she has advantage because she can actually just hold tight angles against you. So you can just scope here, and there's nothing you can do. You go up to her, so you can grapple back, and there's scope down here. And there's nothing you can do about it. The only reason you survive is because they're bad, and they miss their shots. In Plat and Diamond, they will hit that shot, because it's not very difficult to hit a Reaper like that, especially that you don't spam strafe. You don't crouch spam and all the stuff. Second, you spend so much time chasing after one of their DPSs that you don't do anything with the rest of the team. So your team, because you're so little active, is a lot of times 6v5ing with a team comp that's better. They have a Widowmaker, you have a Reaper. Your job is you're supposed to be in this main group, fighting their tanks, denying them space, messing them up, killing DPSs and supports on the point that's out of position, not run after their backline. If you were Tracer, that's fine. Then you can start on the backline, quickly attack the Widow, and then quickly get back to the point, and that way you will never be out of combat. And I actually have a very good example of that if I can find it. I have way too much footage on this PC. Tracer. Yeah, 250. GM Tracer per con carry. There we go. All the way to 250. Okay, this is my GM placement games. Right, so we go here. Right, I immediately take this spot, and I'm here now. I'm immediately active. If the enemy team pushes anywhere, I'm ready to fight from the beginning of this map. They go there, I start fighting, they start locking down the point, and I still try to never take myself out of this fight. I purposely do whatever I can. I play this angle, so so these guys are fighting that way, so I have angles in here, so I don't take damage, so I don't have to retreat. I am purposely played in an angle where there's little chance for me to take damage, while I can still start fighting people. They have turrets in this point, so I can't just blink in and attack this Lucio. Because if I take too much damage now, I have to disengage. If I have to disengage or run for a health pack, then I'm out of the fight for too long. And then my team lacks damage. And when my team lacks damage, we will never get picks, and they will just continue to keep this point. Right? So I'm going to play just super aggressive from the start to finish. Now, we will never win this because my team is doing very weird stuff, and we play with solo heals, and this is GM, and they're really good at keeping pressure up and so on. So we won't win this, but I'm constantly active on them. I'm playing very good here in a way that I'm trying to constantly just stay alive. Like I'm taking minimal damage and trading like 500, 600, 700 health to like 10 on them, right?
Yep.
Same here. This rotation didn't cost me anything because I had already moved here where I could trade nicely. They pushed out. I played this build. They push out on right. I damaged them as they push. I retreat a little bit more. I'm here. I'm right now active on the tanks. I take damage. I just rotate here, take it, blink over. Here, I'm back in the fight. If they push again, I have angles again. So they're not allowed to fight without me. And I'm constantly just doing this. Right now, I'm flanking all the way around, trying to go for this. Can't because there's turrets and we haven't cleared them, which is the job of my Pharah. But my Pharah friend, he doesn't play Pharah. He plays off tank all the time. So he doesn't really play this nicely. Builds a bomb and goes in for the stick. Sticks it. gets the kill, right? Constantly active. There's no downtime. And I could say at this point, oh, I need to kill this and this and this and this and this.
Just one
right?
sec before you close this.
Oh,
Let's say you were playing Reaper here. I don't play that much. I usually play Reaper on control point, but let's say you were playing Reaper. How would you go about this fight if you had a Reaper now instead of a Tracer?
then you need to play, again, you want to be active, right? So you want to hold close angles, right? So, for example, standing here wouldn't work for a Reaper. The only way I can stand here is because I needed to disengage something, and I needed to blink away from damage.
Correct.
Right? Okay. So again, the same with a Tracer, if you notice how close I play in the beginning of the fight, I try to play as close to the wall, as close to them. I start on the point, blink out. Notice how close I am to this guy. I'm outside of his hammer range because I don't want to take damage, right?
Yep.
But I'm close to them because I have SMGs. I don't work further back. So I'm as close as possible. So as a Reaper, you would like to play here, up to this corner wall, where you can trade heavily with them, also because of lifesteal, right? So that you could trade very heavily with them, and you would then play close to every single corner in the map, where you can play aggressively on them, right? Mm-hmm. But for example, if you had played, this is not there, but for example, you play here. Okay, so if they just go like that, or goes like this, or goes like this, you're not close to any of them. So they can just push, and you can't punish it, and they can poke you down with range. So if they go here, they can shoot you before you can engage them. If you engage them, you have to be very firm without taking damage, and then you're stuck inside the enemy team with no escape, right? So you're not active. If you play it further back here, or further over here, or you play it over here, it's different. This one, they push there, you're close. They push in the point, you're close. They push around, you're further away, but you have 2 out of 3 bases covered, right? And if they push around, then you know they sometime sooner or later, they gotta go here. So then you know, by playing here, that, okay, I'm playing close. No matter what happens, I can then fall back to pillar, or this pillar, or the drum, or this one, or that one, or if I want, I could fight over here, right? And this gives me options. If they rotate over here, I can just easily rotate back up, and I can play here, or over here, or close to the stairs. So when they push down, I'm close to them already, and I can start fighting as they push, right?
Okay.
That makes you active, meaning you are in a position that already puts you ready to fight from the beginning, not fighting when they have engaged you. You want to fight before they ever get the chance to engage you. That's how you want to fight this game.
General question before we carry on. So in that, I see the mistakes on that particular map, but should I do what you just suggested, regardless if our Winston, which we had, if I remember, does not deal with the Widow that's, let's say, carrying the enemy team? I still do that. I forget the Widow, even if it's someone else's job who's not doing it, let's say.
Let me give you a better way of thinking about it.
Okay.
Capture point. Sometimes if there's a heavy carry Widow, which probably wouldn't happen in gold, someone that actually can 1v6. In GM, that's more probable, because if I all of a sudden meet Linkster on the enemy team, I just get fucked. Because it's like, I can't play Reaper into that. He will just poke me before I can engage. But imagine that you're the enemy team now, and you have a Widowmaker that just like stands, back here and does your stuff. You want to push the objective. If you don't, we just keep it and we win. So you need to go on the objective sooner or later, right? And if you don't, we win. Your team pushes the objective. The Widowmaker cannot fight on this part of the objective. There's no line of sight on her. She can't shoot you here, she can't shoot here, she can't fight here, she can't fight over here. She can only shoot bare minimums here, right? Little bit down here, right? If she's good. So if they go to the point, you can play close on the objective and just mess them up, and there's not much they can do. If it's Sanctum, if it's Mecha Base, it's different, because this is an open map. So you can't play close here that easily without the walls being up, and that's RNG, right? If she stands here and spams down the point, and you are on the point, you can very easily get punished. But down here, there's plenty of cover. You can use this part of the drum, you can use over here, right? Therefore, if she stands here and just tries to snipe you, she can't do it. And therefore, her team is fighting 5v6. And you can wipe most of their tanks. Their tanks they play dive against you. The tanks can't win versus you close quarters. They can't. So they need someone to remove you from the point. For example, the Widow. So the Widowmaker could rotate here and then start pressuring you. Then you would be forced to rotate over here, and so on, so on, so on. Right? And therefore, you don't need to kill the Widow. You just need to kill her team when they try to push, and they are at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
You shouldn't play to their strengths. They want to fight here, where the Widowmaker can free fire. Play to your hero strength. Where is your hero strong? Put yourself in a position where you, with your hero, are active and can do stuff, right?
Yep, agreed.
And then when the Widowmaker pushes down here, for example, then it's like, okay, I'm already fighting over here. I see the Widow, I play over here, and now I can go for her, right? Now she has to grappling hook back. And then I just go back to my team. And now she's out of the fight again.
Yep.
Now she has to play further back, right? With limited angles, right? So you have a problem with your movement, you have a problem with your accuracy, and in general just being active. You have you're not active. Your positioning is not that good. As you take yourself out of the fight, you are very vulnerable. That's cool skins. You don't pay that much attention. Well, it seems like you kind of know what's going on around you all the time, but it doesn't seem like you care. Like they will pop walls right next to you, and you'll just crouch on a corner next to them. It's very difficult to get on the right map. I'll just open Busan and just hope we get like the correct maps all the time. Busan, thank you. So they will pop walls right next to you. You'll just crouch around the corner, hope they won't shoot you, right? You don't take into consideration sometimes what's going on around you. This is the wrong one, but whatever, right? So a good way is, again, just increase what's known as your APM, your actions per minute.
Yep.
So, for example, in spawn room, right? Just strafing. This is crouch spamming. Just jumping a little bit, right? Whatever, moving the hand. You go out of the spawn, and this is how it should look, right? Here, snap. There, check, snap. Pre-firing here, right? If I'm Ashe, I want this. Just make it a habit. Right now, there's no one here, but first because it's a custom game, and two, because we would have left spawn, right? This is like the first second. But I still put my crosshair here, right? To be active from the beginning of my map. Right? Clear down there, check here, check there. Where's the next spot? Top, no on top, no one there, right? This way I'm active from the beginning. And notice that even while I'm moving, I'm just like strafing just a little bit. Because it makes a big difference. Because if you run in a straight line, and you know this, you play Ashe a lot, so you know this, it's super easy to hit this. And if people are AFKing out of spawn, that's when you die or take random damage, right? Then with this, instead of moving down middle, we move cover here, now we close. Cover to here, now we close. Cover, here we can't really move to cover, but we can try to push, for example, to the left side. Now we're playing close again, right?
Yep.
That way you're constantly moving out of line of sight of people. So as a Reaper, you're closing the distance. And this, you should do this with most heroes, right? With Reaper, it does, like, if I stand here and someone's on the point, this doesn't gain. If I'm Ashe, right, then now I get line of sight. But as a Reaper, I don't get shit from this, right? And as an Ashe, I can play here instead, and I can then barely peek them. And if they peek me, and I'm scared of dying, I just do this. But if I'm this far back as Ashe, and I try to shoot him, and I want to get to cover, it's that long run. It's a very long move. Compared to just this. Here I have cover. As a Reaper, I have cover. If they want to play close, they can play close. I can rotate to here. Now I have cover with this wall. And then I can play this wall, right? Now I'm close to them. And I've closed the gap without them having line of sight on me. Everywhere except there, right? And if they put there, then I go high ground. Right? And then I can play here. Right? Close to cover. And go, right? Make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. And that's really the most of the thing. With Sompa, we want to talk about some of your ability management and stuff like that. But let's really just start this. I think that will be the easiest thing. So here, the instant you move to cover, you stop. No real reason to stop, but whatever. Then you stand still.
I stopped to wait for Reinhardt. I wanted to move with Reinhardt.
Yeah. Doesn't really gain you much. You want to be pushing up as aggressive as possible, right? Like, you want it to be, if possible, like already, here. So these tanks couldn't take this space, right? There wasn't much risk of you dying there, but it's fine. Again, it's about being as aggressive. You want to claim in the beginning of King of the Hills, as a DPS, you want to claim as much fucking space as possible so that they can't claim it for you. Logically, don't feed. That's why it's fine to play Reaper, because if I go here, let's say that my team is super slow because it's gold and they don't push and they stand and wait and shit like that. I go here. Okay, the Winston comes. Bang, bang. Their Diva comes. Pang, pang. They can't push now. They can send all their people on me, and then I just press shift and back to my team, right? Or back to here. and then my team pushes. And now I'm active. This does that they are not allowed to play further forward. Let me just bring it on that map specifically, just as an example. If I'm holding down here as a Reaper, they can't push low ground past me without dying or taking an excessive amount of damage. And I have a retreat option. I can back off to my team that's coming, even if they're late, right? This way they will take damage from the beginning. I can, but if I don't, and I wait with my team, and my team stops here, and I wait up here a little bit, the enemy team can take this corner, they can take over here, they can take this high ground, they can set up people over here, and they can lock down the entire point, and they can force us to play in this choke. You pushing up here claims this space. They can't move you. You're a Reaper. You're not a Zenyatta. If you were a Sen, you would be fading, but you're a Reaper. They can't move you. It's very difficult. You have a huge advantage in close quarters against them, so you need to claim the space. The same goes with Tracer. If you were playing Tracer, you'll be pushing over here. If you were being Sombra, you'll be pushing, for example, over here. If they didn't start setting up over here, you could either harass them, as a Tracer, for example, poke their tanks, and do that. They are not allowed to play here anymore. Because if they try to stay here, they will take a lot of damage, and if they send everybody at you, first they are moving their position from here to over here, and then you just blink backwards. As a Sombra, you can relocate, for example, right? But then you can relocate up to this high ground. And now you can shoot down on them and hack them. And that does it, they can't play here, because they will constantly take damage from you. And they will get weak, and you will build ultimates, right? And that way you act them from the beginning of the match. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Right? We want to get as much damage. This is why Overwatch is such a hectic game, because it's about being aggressive from start to finish as a DPS. There's certain DPSs that we can't do it. McCree, for example, as I mentioned a lot, he is a very big feeder because he's easily dived. Right? So as McCree, you kind of gotta stop and wait for a second, right? McCree can't start here, because if he gets dived, he dies, right? But that's also because he's not good at close quarter. He would be playing, for example, up top here, for example, or further in here, or rotating over to this side, right? Or rotating over here. That way he could kind of keep his distance while his tanks claim space. Same goes with Ashe. You can't push this far close with Ashe, but you can play, for example, over here, right? This way you give you line of sight, and you have your coach gun to escape. Or you can play up here, shoot down on them, right? As much damage as possible from the beginning of the fight.
So in a control point with Ashe, I should never, like, most of the time be outside the point. Almost...
Well, no, but you gotta, like, remember, you have a lot, like, one of the things that's, like, I want to try to do for you, to coach you, or, like, the best way I think to coach you is that you have a lot of experience in the game. You're fucking higher ranked than me, like, level. Like, that's because I scrim most of the time and I don't get the XP from that, or I used to not get XP. But, like, you are, like, diamond border, which is pretty impressive. So imagine this, like, a way for you to think about it, because again, I don't want to just tell you on this map play like this, right?
Yeah,
because that's not going to help you.
It's just that
right?
I really want to master Ashe as much as I can.
So look at the characters. Let's just put up like this. Let's just put up all the standard hitscan players in the game right now. Bam, this guy, Soldier, Sombra, and Tracer. These are the standard hitscan players in the game. Okay. Super long range. Sucks at CQB. In between that, pretty long range, pretty okay. It's like works at closer ranges. Practically like a little bit closer range because he doesn't have the range. Not that she's like that much better. He doesn't just have range and he has flash. Very much the same as Ashe, or like in between these two again because of his range, and he likes to keep his distance because he doesn't have flash. These two very close range flankers, right? So with a Widowmaker, you have a different position than an Ashe. And an Ashe and these guys have a different position than these two. So compare that to a Reaper, who is like close quarter down here on like border with Reinhardt, right? Because you need to be in shotgun range, right? You play him more like a Ryan or a D.Va than anything else. Well, you play him actually more like a D.Va than a Ryan, right? Because he's a shotguns user. So he needs to be very close to people. And he can bruise on the point, right? Like a Doom Beast. He can take a lot of hits. He can trade a lot of hits back. You have an escape mechanism with Wraith Form where you can either just wait for healing or back off to your team. So you want to play very, very close and deal a lot of damage. You don't want to play very, very close. With Ashe, for example, you want to normally play... Let's say that you want to, for example, start up here. Let's say that your team is not claiming space, right? Your team might be, playing here with your Ryan and all that good stuff. So as an Ashe player, you can then set up an area where you have space to work with. You know where they're coming from. They're either coming from here, down here, or over here. This one, most likely not, right? So most likely in your elo, you know that they're going to just run main.
Yeah.
That most likely what happens in golds. They rarely probably flank around. And therefore, you know, okay, approximately where's the enemy team coming? You have a lot of experience in the game, so you should know approximately they should be coming from main, for example. So then you set yourself up accordingly, right? For example, this position here allows me to scope like that. It's a little bit safe, and it allows me vision. And if they push, and my teams fall back, I do the same. And this is then my final position. I can't really move further than this. Like, I can move back here, but at this point I can play here. What does this position give me? Can I be active? Here, can I be active? If the fight is here, yes. If the fight is here, yes. If the fight enters over here, yes, I can move back. If the fight goes to the point, yes, I can be active. If the fight is on the stairs, yes, I can be active also from over here, right? So I can be active throughout the fight. No matter where they push, I can be active unless they hide over here. I will have problem being active, but at that point I can even position myself there and get angles, try to get angles across in here, right? So I think, where's the enemy team gonna push? Can I be active with my hero? For Ashe, that means, can I keep a distance where it's easy for me to shoot them, where I can deal damage, right? So for example, with Ashe, you might want to play a little bit closer because you have Dynamite. A Widowmaker doesn't need to play that much closer. So she can, for example, play way up here because this is like good range for me, right? So I can snipe them as they move here. I can immediately snipe them. And I don't need to be scared of being dived because I'm far away, and my gun is very efficient at this range. But Ashe, I might want to play a little bit here because I want to dynamite them as they move through the choke. I want to dynamite here. So I want that damage here from the beginning of the fight. So they take as much damage as possible. And then I can start moving backwards and cutting backwards. And if they have a Winston, he dives me, I just coach gun him away while I move, right? So at that point, I'm not that scared of the Winston diving me. But if you're McCree, for example, you can't always position yourself, for example, here. Because if they have Winston and they dive you, okay, there's a big chance that I will die because my healers are shit. So okay, I will die. So I need to play a little bit. So then I need to play stairs. I can still flash if they push here. My tank, my Rhine, I can still flash. I can still be active with my damage, but I have a little bit more space to work with, right? I don't have an escape, so I need to play a little bit safer. Make sense?
Yep.
So your position really depends on who you are playing. If your Rhine is here and you play Reaper, you can definitely play here, right? And start fighting them very early here in the choke. And kite backwards. You don't have to play like that, but that's an option for you. As you have to play right, staying here with the Reaper won't do anything, right? Or you can play up top, since you can teleport. They try to push through the choke, and you can shoot down on them. And can they do anything about it? Not really. They can move away from you, but they have, let's say they run goats, because goats, right? Always fun. Red team, that's blue, red, goats. It's a sad day when I had to pre-make this because of competitive scrims. So I had to pre-make this because it's so common for me to spawn in. They run this, right? Very, very cancer. You stand top, you shoot down. Can any of these do anything about it? No. Are you active? Yes, I'm in my engagement range. Are you in danger? My Rhine is here. I'm here. My team is gonna fight on the point anyway, so I can Wraith form down to the point, right? And if I absolutely want to, I could teleport if I have the time, right? Am I endangering them? Yes, I can shoot all the tanks very efficiently. If the tanks ignore me or just start pushing, I can drop down into the backline and kill the Sten. And can they do anything about it? No, not really. They can't really do anything about it. If the fighting starts, I can be very, very active. I can just stand on my high ground and shoot down on them. Or I can drop down and start fighting them in close range. Right? So you don't lose anything. Because worst case scenario, and they move out of your range, like they rotate over here, you just drop down from high ground. And now you're in a good position. Now you're back to where you originally been playing. Yep. They start rotating,